Hey guys. Hey guys, welcome to B-Sides. My name's Ken Cross. Please welcome the VP of Fish Tech, Barry Cooper.
Oldest guy in the room, most likely, it looks like here. Hey, how's everybody? What about Chris Teresa? What about that? Awesome, wasn't it? I love hearing him throw down. Before we even get started, there's one takeaway you got to get right now. See these right here? This is going to get you some free booze and some free pizza and some free tokens at the Up Down tonight in the after party. Okay, rock and roll. Going to see you there. So, come on, clap the beer, man. Come on. All right, cool. All right, excellent. I'm Barry Cooper. Thank you for the introduction. And before I get started really throwing down here a little bit, I want to talk about B-Sides. I want to say a little bit about the absence that the tech community has had of real leadership and thought leadership. This is fantastic, dude. I mean, I've been in tech and IT and IT security now for about 30 years, and this is great to see it back and kicking again. So awesome, and kudos to everyone who threw down and made that happen. So you may ask yourself, what on God's green earth is a marketing guy talking about IoT? What on God's green earth could this old geezer know about the Internet of Things? Well, luckily for us, I've had some experience in the training realm. Anybody ever taken a training course from me at Fishnet Security, maybe back in the day, firewall? Yeah, okay, in that case, yeah, I was a kick-ass instructor. I mean, one of the best. I could throw down with all of them, but I'm an educator at heart. And what I want to do today is maybe throw down a little bit from the education perspective. I like to look at things from their origin, where they come from, where they headed. And then I also like memes and smart-ass stuff, just like any good tech person does, right? So that's what we're going to look at today. I work at Fish Tech. Fish Tech is a secure digital transformation organization out in Martin City. Gary Fish started Fishnet Security and fired him on, and now this is his kind of next iteration. We're focused on cloud and shit like that, okay? Cool. So all that obligatory is out of the way. I will have to admit as well that I'm a little intimidated with the ninja level that I see in the room today as well. So, what I do fall back to is to understand that I have a couple of teenagers at home, and if I can handle that shit, I think I can handle what we got going on here today. Right on? Right on. All right. I'm also old, and my thoughts probably leave me really quickly, so I'm going to actually use this to keep me on track here. See this? So don't hate, right? So, what's the deal with IoT, right? Where does that come from? Where does that goofy ass title come from? Maybe a guy who looks something like that, right? Jerry Seinfeld. Well, the title of this talk is, what's the deal with IoT? And it's pretty obvious that I'm, not really good at making snazzy titles and all that. And in full disclosure, my view of IoT in all of its forms won't be based on analogies between George Costanza and, Kramer and Elaine. We're not really going to go there. So we're not going to go down the Jerry Seinfeld track. What I really personally think about IoT and the potential long-term ramifications of IoT is this. The Terminator, right? If you think about where IoT could go, potentially, it could get dark. But this is just my version, kind of a warped version of where IoT could get to. If it's not poorly managed, if it's not really thought through with security and clarity, and if good philosophies aren't in place, it could turn deadly and nasty, right? I mean, there's a lot of little devices out there that idle up. And when you start speaking about these individual devices and these individual organizations, let's take a little peek at the landscape. I mean, there are literally tons of organizations that build these gadgets or the communication channels or frameworks to make them work. I love technology, I love gadgets. I got smartwatch, smart phone, smart home. Hopefully I have smart kids. I don't know. We're going to see how that turns out. I think I'm 2 for 3 right now, so that's looking pretty good. But I love the potential that technology has, and there's literally hundreds of companies that are building IoT devices. And when I think of it again as the potential what will this, perfect future look like? Well, the perfect future, may look something a little like this. The Jetsons, right? I mean, we've got George, we've got Jane, Judy, and Elroy, and the perfect IoT outcome is that everything works seamlessly together without security flaws. We're not being attacked by it. It's not attacking itself even. But the character that I like to always keep an eye on in this particular is this one right here. I mean, look at those eyes, man. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I think I've seen those somewhere before, like, maybe like, let's see, maybe here, right? So, I don't know, this is a bunch of crap to get started here, but, I never trust robots. Just look them in the eye, man. That's all you got to do. You can see right there. It's just not right. The red eye thing will tell you all you need to know. Looks like we lost this thing, so that's good. All right. So a little more, just a few stats to kind of get us level set here is that, when you talk about, only about 10% of new devices that connect to the corporate network are going to be managed with traditionally the way we do it today. That's interesting to know from the perspective of what are we going to do about it, right? There's also, there's just shitloads of devices out there, and there's only going to be more. 20+ billion. Some organizations will actually say that 46 to 80 billion different devices will be connected by 2020. So, as well, these devices are really going to need automation, and they're going to need to be automated to be effective. So, automation and self-orchestration are really concepts that we like, that I like for convenience. These devices are going to have the ability to connect together and learn together. So AI, machine learning, all that self-actualization of machines, that's going to happen at some time, and it's going to be interesting to watch how that actually goes down. I always, since I was a history teacher, right, I always like to look where things originated. And, IoT was born as an idea as far back as '82, right? I was graduating high school. I had only, my Commodore 64, I'm not sure if I've ripped it apart yet, but I was about to. And so all the way back there is when it really started. The first Coke machine at Carnegie Mellon University was internet connected to make sure that the Coke was at the right temperature and stayed good for its users. So, as we progressed in '94, Reza Raji described the concept in the IEEE spectrum as moving small packets of information and stuff around to large sets of nodes and to integrate and automate everything. So interconnectedness was really at the key of all of this. Microsoft got involved, of course, as they always do, between '93 and '96 with the app work, and Novell jumped in with Nest. But really, this cowboy that's on the screen here, this is, if you don't know, this is Kevin Ashton. He's the co-founder of MIT's Auto ID Center, and he's really credited with coining the phrase, the Internet of Things. So we can thank him for any of the pain we're going to feel in the future. His concept really revolved around RFID, and that these devices would communicate via radio frequencies. Of course, he really couldn't have seen forward or leapt forward in time and understood that, IP networking is really where, the foundation of all networking is going to be, and that RFID was kind of a fad and didn't really work. As the Internet of Things progressed, there was some momentum here, and device manufacturers and businesses, they took stock of this. They said, we're going to make money off of this. Where does it always default to? We're going to make some cash. Right? And of course, what's the first thing that gets thrown out the window when we're going to make money? Security, right? I mean, so they're not really building these devices with security in mind. It didn't take long, though, for the businesses, these manufacturers, to say, forget about this RFID crap. That's not going to work. They need to be IP connected. So, the first refrigerator that we have here is our LG Internet Digital DDoS appeared with LAN ports. It didn't take long as well for the IPSO community in 2008 to jump on board and start to collaborate and build some industry partners that were, concerned about how this was all going to connect together. Big businesses, not just entrepreneurs and researchers, they were growing interested in implementing IoT in production environments. And that has not stopped. As we know to this day, it has only propelled faster and faster. So one of the things that we focus on at the organization I work at now is the cloud, right? And cloud technology, hybrid cloud, public cloud, private cloud, multi-cloud, fog, whatever the name you give it, right? We're focused on technology that works in the cloud and propels the cloud forward. We bandy about this term of digital transformation all the time, right? I mean, we've got it all over the website of the company I work for, right? I'm a marketing guy. I can't even get, people to remove it from the website. But digital transformation is important, and really, if you think about the Internet of Things, it is the nexus of digital transformation. It's the very core of transformation. Now that networking capabilities are expanding and you've got large-scale data analytics tools, you've got the cloud out there, you're seeing frameworks like the All-Seen Alliance's All-Join framework, which makes it easy to create and connect these device networks and connect them together. And it also makes it easier for these devices to discover each other, right? Like my little friend earlier, Skynet, getting connected and everybody seeing each other, working together. That's where this is actually going to head. So, developers can write applications for interoperability, transport layers kind of really out the window without manufacturer, in some cases without even internet access to make this work. So, in my opinion, being that we focus on cloud, I've been studying this quite a bit as well, is that the cloud is going to become more like uranium to the IoT reactor as IoT begins to move forward. Maybe like Robin to Batman. Or maybe it is actually, and more to the point, what the Python is to Rick Grimes. That's what the cloud is going to be for IoT development. So as we move forward here, and all these devices are connected, servers, cheaper, leaner, meaner, thermostats to communicate with the outside world on their own, all of these devices, it's, the days of simply just plugging in your refrigerator to find out if you, could have the stuff for chicken cacciatore or wanted to make sure it was 34 degrees, those days are really over, right? So like all good things that have been created, in technology, the IoT also is going through its machinations, and there's always bad actors. There's always folks out there that want to take a good thing, drop the proverbial turd in the punch bowl, if you will, and make it difficult. Does anyone really recognize what this image here is? Right? This is one of the hunter-killer drones, right? And things that were actually created for one purpose actually can be utilized for something else. And we're really at that crucial moment, in my opinion, in the evolution of IoT. You've got smart cities, smart TVs. That's awesome. And now there's untold legions of connected devices around the world working together, as we well know. I mean, do I need to have a firewall? Do I really think of my home network the same as I did when I just threw up my little router and was on it with wireless? I've got an entire network at home. And is the local loop going to protect me at all? Don't count on it. Don't count on it. So, what do we got? So what we want to talk about next, or what I'm going to jump into here, is really not the Internet of Things, but the insecurity of things, right? And really that's where we're at. Juniper forecasts that there's going to be up to 46 billion of these little monkeys connected together, which is about a 200% increase from where we're at right now. At CES, Greg Otto was talking, and he's like, while the tech-hungry hordes are out here looking at all these kick-ass gizmos, how they fit together, wearables, and all of that, and there's 50,000 people running around here, there was only about 50 people who even were concerned with security when it came to IoT at all. And that's just a shame, right? I mean, that's just a crying shame. Healthcare, IT news looked at the same problem here, and as this phenomenon really begins to, get some momentum, consumers, rightfully so, are not going to trust IoT connected devices until they know that the security issues around them are resolved. But we know that end users, even home users, hey man, if it's cool, they're going to plug it in, it's going to happen, we just know it, right? That's the way that things are. So, as I mentioned earlier too, home automation, the use of smart thermostats and all the other trash that we plug into our houses is really going to be interesting to see where that goes. Wow, look, snappy slide transitions. That must be a marketing guy or something. Right on. So when IoT manufacturers begin to build these devices, obviously they did this with a minimalist approach when it came to security. When you do something like that and you don't have security in the creation process, I don't care if it's IoT or anything else, stuff goes bad. It just goes bad. And how many are you familiar, and most of the people in this room I'm sure are probably familiar with the DEN attack, right? The DEN attack that took place where a DNS provider was essentially just mashed. And kind of just the core elements of the attack itself were maliciously targeted TCP and UDP traffic over 53 naturally, and utilizing the Mirai botnet as the primary attack source. The attack generated these compound recursive DNS retries that just pounded this organization into submission, right? And there were over at the end of this, whenever they've kind of deconstructed this attack, there were over 100,000 devices, many of them CCTV cameras, refrigerators, that actually were involved in this attack. So we need to not think of these IoT devices as kind of harmless little kittens, because you put them all together and you've got yourself, well, maybe Skynet, well, maybe not, maybe close to Skynet, right? Something that can be pretty nasty. The results of this were Twitter, Netflix, Airbnb, Amazon, Reddit. All these people were nailed by this attack. Really, kind of I think a wake-up call and a precedent-shattering occurrence. This type of volumetric attack where you're having these DDoS attacks that are just mangling these organizations using a new vector like IoT, people didn't really think about it. They don't think about, when I look at my 4K TV that I love to watch sports on and all that, I don't think about that kicking my ass someday. I don't look at it like that. I mean, I look at it, I love that TV. And the wife says I love that TV too much. Obviously, that's pretty much the case, right? But I mean, I love these devices and the way that they're getting connected. I love that as well. But all these devices can be enlisted in this DDoS army, like Black Friday, which is now the folks call that, especially at DEN, about this particular attack, and rightfully so. They should. The Internet of Things is going to play, this huge role in targeted attacks in 2017. Duh, right? It already is. Capitalizing on, the growing acceptance of devices. I mean, I've got this little, One IQ watch. It's really kind of just a knockoff of the iPhone or the iWatch 2. It's just kind of a crappier version of that, but it does everything because I'm cheap, right? So I get this device, but this device connects to the corporate network. This device connects to every network that I know, and it can find them on its own as well. So you know what? Whenever someone says, in 2017, it may be the nexus of an attack, I just say, duh. Yeah, it obviously is, and it obviously is going to be moving forward. Another attack in June of last year, Securi reported that they discovered a botnet made up of 2,500 CCTV devices, used all together to pound an organization as well. We've been warned about these things, and what I thought was interesting about this particular attack as well is that the scale. So it was sourced from 105 different countries. So it wasn't just 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 bad actors. This was everywhere. And that's what we're looking at when we're talking about the Internet of Things and trying to secure this as we go on, right? You know, many IoT devices, as we know, are what? They're installed, and then what do? Walk away, right? Look at that. Installed it, boop, it's working, boop, I can connect to it on my app, boop, look, yeah, my kid's not doing his homework, kick ass, right? I see that. Yeah, I got it. What do I do? Is you fire and forget. You install it and leave it. And that's really where we're at right now. You know, the firmware is not necessarily updated. When these things are built, they're built many times with, you know, default passwords, of course, but not only that, but in many cases you can't change them. There's actually devices, especially home devices around CCTV types that you cannot change. And naturally, you know, a majority of these security attacks did originate in China and the good old US of A. So if you want to look at the platform, it comes from us, right? So here's the little tsunami picture that I neglected to turn, whatever. All right, I'm an education guy, right? I mentioned that many times, and you're probably getting sick of hearing that already, but in education, there's friggin' rules, okay? In mathematics, there's formulas, right? In grammar, you know, you've got proper syntax, and your mom's saying, don't say ain't, and all that, right? Well, what if we take this kind of similar approach? What about IoT? You know, where art thou IoT best practices, right? Where are they at? Where are they at now, right? They're really nowhere, right? In many cases, but you know, some organizations like CETA, the Custom Electronic Design and Installation Association, and the CTA, you know, they're working on this, and that's good to see, right? They're going to start trying to build some guidelines. Of course, no one can agree on anything just yet, you know, and of course there's our friends across the pond have a different take on this, but this is a must. You know, Homeland Security getting involved in the Department of Commerce have outlined their own set of guidelines to IoT. Whenever I see that, I get nervous, right? I would love to see manufacturers and us come up with these guidelines, principles, and really the philosophy behind IoT and get this shit right? You know, the bad news is, though they, you know, Homeland Security and Department of Commerce got involved and they looked at guidelines. We're going to do guidelines for IoT. So what they did is they looked at it and said, yeah, I'm going to only address availability, access, standards, and technology development. They didn't even address security at all. They didn't even look at it. So, you know, these types of volumetric attacks utilizing IoT devices, this crap is not going away. What really is needed, and I think you all would agree, the people in this room, is a mindset change. A mindset change about IoT. You know, whenever I think about, you know, I go back to my little education, I've got to have a methodology to do something. So I'm going to share something with you really quick that may or may not be helpful to you as far as a methodology to try to combat, or at least get your arms around IoT, whether you're managing it, whether you're building a business on it. You know, it all starts with the strategic approach that you take, right? You back up, look at your policies, procedures, guidelines. That's why I love Chris's talk downstairs, because that's really where it all starts. Get your strategy right. Get your poop in a group, right? Understand how you're going to attack this. Find a way to go out and do good discovery. You don't know what you don't know until you do that. You know, then look at a way to onboard and authenticate and partner with these devices or the people that are bringing them in, if you will. You know, and then really focus your strategy on ongoing firmware updates and maintenance and connectivity to these devices. And then, of course, you know, policy-based encryption, that's just a must. You got to have that at the core. Of course, governance is step two, and once you've got the skeleton framework, your strategy in place, you need to do a thorough risk analysis. It could be a part of your strategy, but really when you're looking at risk, as Chris, I think, so rightfully pointed out earlier, that it's like, okay, 14,860 things, and yay, 4% are good, so I'm kicking ass, right? You know what I mean? That's not the case, you know, obviously not the case. In governance, you know, any compliance, regulatory standards, all of that needs to be nailed down and thought through as well. Next, okay, come on, baby, love you. There you go. Next is architecture. You know, a lot of folks would say, okay, when it's IoT, do you even really need to focus on this? You know, it seems like it would just be intuitive that the architecture needs to be well planned. You know, but now that we have networks, you know, we have software-defined everything. your network is not going to look like in 5 years. It's going to look totally different than it does right now. You got software-defined networking, software-defined WAN, software-defined friggin' everything, right? And it's either on-prem if the trend continues and cloud adoption keeps going the way it's going, then we're going to need to pay attention to this. On an architecture front as well, the components of a good architecture are if you have actuators and sensors and things that may be involved in the manufacturing realm, you need to make sure that these are architected correctly and segmented correctly. Make sure that your internet gateway, of course, is set up correctly. And then if there's edge IT processing that happens, you need to make sure that the edge IT processing is being done efficiently and being done correctly. And then finally, when this thing gets converted to the data center, if it does, or the cloud, for continual processing, that you have the right controls in place as well. And as the security stack begins to move to the cloud, there's a whole crap ton of additional things to pay attention to. One of the things that my brethren that are CIOs and CISOs, I think, always talk to me about is validation. Okay, so you've installed a solution, I'm going to test this solution. Do I really go and try to test my solution, or I just think it works? I trust my guys. I trust my gals. They're out there. They put this thing into submission, right? It's going to work. Well, on a validation front, I'm just one of, I don't trust anybody, right? It's just the way it is. And I'm a former military as well, which means if I don't trust them, I might need to kill them at some point in time, right? But when I look at these providers, bake them off. Bake off the providers one against another. Do a POC with your choices and make sure those are right. And then, when you're validating IoT infrastructure, focus on controls, maybe automation, and definitely firmware. It should be really at the nexus of everything you do. You're going to move over to how you implement this stuff. It needs to be implemented securely. We already know that. But some things to think about on the implementation front is use the right platforms. Check the connectivity and protocols, and if you're a business, what's your business model? What's it look like? How are you utilizing IoT? Are you a provider? Are you building devices? Are you manufacturing? What's that look like? And then also, look at the applications that are, in use to pull this off. The ones that control and collect and analyze data. You need to make sure those are tightly knit and working together. And finally, operations. This is when, you're fully geared up. And one of the interesting statistics that I ran across and kind of changes is that for IoT, 2/3 of all IoT projects are not managed by IT. I was like, what? 2/3 of all IoT projects are not managed by IoT? Well, who the hell's managing them then, right? Again, let's downplay security. Nothing more pisses me off than that, right? So on the operations front, you want to investigate the benefits of AI. Okay, it's just going to, it's fact. I mean, at some point in time, we want to see what does artificial intelligence bring us from an orchestration, automation perspective. Other operational considerations would be, access controls, efficiency. What does it drive efficiency by utilization of IoT? And then, of course, benchmarking and a good way to detect malfunctions, right? So, as I wrap this bad boy up, here's the utopia. I mean, you're in your home automation bubble, everything's working together seamlessly. What could go wrong, right? Well, we already talked about the lack of universal standards is a struggle and is a slow process to get moving, but hopefully, doubtfully, maybe, they'll get it together and there'll be some solid standards behind this. Manufacturers of IoT devices and systems, they got to step their game up. They just got to get their shit together. I mean, it's got to happen. That's got to happen. And I think people, this room can influence that. If it's a technology provider, this room can definitely influence that. If you're looking at the growth and the scale of IoT, I need to untether it from a power source. If I can disconnect IoT devices from a power source and they maintain their own power source, that is really going to propel what is possible with IoT as well. The technology for doing that's not there, but I don't think that's too far off. Of course, security and privacy, these are huge issues on the IoT front. Who's collecting information, what's going on there. And luckily, consumers are still wary. Now, they may not be well informed, and they're not our security ninjas for the most part, like you ladies and gentlemen are, but you know, they're wary, and that's good as well. So maybe that'll drive our manufacturing brethren to get their crap together. So, you know, IoT, as we talked about as well, this can be weaponized. That's my real fear, is the weaponization of this technology, and it's already been done, and where that's going to lead, because we got some smart folks that are on that side of the house. You know, we already talked about best practices. You know, that needs to get fixed. So IoT, you know, is really just getting I don't say it's getting started. It's been conceptualized, and now it's being actualized. It's actually happening now. And this is when the time is to get this right. The strategy, the governance, the architecture, the implementation, the operations, all this stuff needs to be corrected. And IoT, you know, we can do that. You know what I mean? And if we do, you know, we'll all be resting in this better world. It looks like this right here, right? It's going to be beautiful. But I kind of think, or not. Or not. All right, you guys, thank you very much. Enjoy your time.
All right, everybody, thank Barry from Fish Tech.
Thanks, y'all. Okay, hold on. What's the one takeaway?
Party.
Party at the Up Down at 6:30 tonight, right on? Okay.